To start, I do want to say kudos again to the Influence Group and Jason. This is just awesome. This is way better than Zoom to see, physical humans in the room together. And it's been a while since I've done anything like this, and it's just amazing to reconnect with everybody and get everybody here today. So what I want to talk about is why we believe that measurement and data matters more than ever for workplace strategy. Agree with a lot of what Jason just said. I think we're in the biggest transformation in the history of work. And forever, spaces have been misunderstood. This was very true prior to 2020, but it's even more true today. And the thing that we really think about is that just because a space is dynamic doesn't mean that it's unpredictable. And so what a lot of what our company focuses on and does is to help solve this problem of measuring, reporting, and analyzing occupancy data so that we can solve the dynamic problem and measure and make good decisions. This, Jason, you did tee me up with this. You can't manage what you can't measure, right? And when we think about space and real estate, just given the immense investment and the immense size of the asset class and how dynamic it's becoming, we think measurement is fundamental. It's fundamental to understanding, it's fundamental to making decisions, and ultimately fundamental to improving the spaces that people will inhabit to deliver great experiences and drive productivity and happiness. So with this, I'm going to transition and just talk about some of the learnings that we've discovered as we've analyzed data across about 40 million square feet of space. We published a report about a month ago or so about this that just analyzed some of the trends that we've seen pre and post COVID pandemic. So even pre-COVID, spaces were already really underutilized. So our data has shown, again, pre-COVID context, only 20% of office space was actually fully used. So we saw dramatic underutilization even going into the pandemic. And then in 2020, this happened, right? And so what we're showing in this chart here is a quarterly view of utilization over time. On the left-hand side, that's sort of like late 2019 going into 2020. I often joke this is the sort of inverse of the COVID case curve. You can see the ups and downs as COVID progressed. But the trend that we've seen in particular over the past couple of quarters is that utilization is coming back. It's definitely not anywhere near pre-COVID, but we are starting to see it creep back up. And the office utilization has increased by 135% since the original start of the pandemic. The other interesting trend that we've seen is how the distribution and usage of space has changed. And the big driver here has been the transition to more use of collaborative types of spaces. And so I think this reflects a lot of our intuitions about the needs of sort of the people that are going into the office today. You're not going to the office to sit on Zoom calls all day. You want to go to the office to collaborate and work. And we actually see that reflected in the data and the actual behaviors of users in the real world. And so we see utilization of collaborative spaces increased by 50% since the start of this year. And then we've got a lot of people that are now looking at that data and then using that to inform the types of design decisions that they make to support and enhance that type of collaboration. One other interesting sort of data point, again, it's maybe not a super surprising result here, but the trends of use over day of week. There's a clear preference for people for Tuesday through Thursday to come into the office. We see Mondays and Fridays have dramatically different utilization patterns than Tuesday through Thursday. And so this is, again, I think a really good example of once you have the ability to measure, you can be much more confident with the types of decisions you make based on that data. And ultimately, people do vote with their feet, right? So they're telling us, and we're seeing it in the data, and we see that reflected here. The other thing that we're seeing is this is a transition of how spaces are being designed. There is a pretty dramatic shift, as I'm sure a lot of the colleagues here have shared, in designing spaces to be much more collaborative. So we're seeing a lot of companies now experiment with mobile furniture designs. Space is no longer becoming static, that people are moving around and the physical environment is going to be changing and dynamic as well. And so to compensate for that increased demand for collaborative types of spaces, we're seeing a lot of people increase the investment into those types of environments. But now as sort of we transition and we go into this sort of new dynamic world, one of the things that we really focus on is how do we improve our ability to measure space. And what we say here is that our understanding of space can no longer be binary, just person there, person not there. And one of the things that has been really surprising to me personally and sort of interesting is that we have the ability not only to count people, but we also have the ability to identify whether people are occupying space passively with their stuff. And this is one specific example, but we saw that when we looked at space design, we saw that about 40% of the time space was occupied, even if humans were not physically present there. And so if you tried to measure that space utilization without the ability to account for stuff, you're getting a dramatically different picture of utilization. And this is something that for a lot of companies that were already experimenting with hybrid and neighborhood-style seating and activity-based working pre-pandemic, this is something that we think is going to be really huge post-pandemic, and we're seeing a lot of that trends as well. And then lastly, on the shift to a dynamic type of space, this data came from a survey that we ran across a number of workplace leaders as part of our report that we recently ran. We're seeing about 80% of customers and companies are expecting to move to some sort of mobile, agile furniture design. And that has dramatic implications for the types of decisions to be made and the types of measurement strategies required. And lastly, on the ultimate sort of role here is that the increase in collaboration space is absolutely fundamental, and that space planners should expect to dramatically increase the investment in that type of space, and change the ratio of dedicated space to unassigned space. And so with that, we're going to close with a couple of examples of folks that have been sort of thinking about how to use measurement to make better decisions. One on overall portfolio management. So we've worked with folks that have used utilization data to make leasing termination decisions as they sort of plan the longer term leases. And then also folks that are thinking about how to incorporate this into that modern workplace experience. So with that, I'll close, pause, see if there's any questions.
Yeah, do we have some time for some questions? Does anyone want to pick Dan's brain from the audience? Here, I'll just give you the microphone.
Hey Dan, well, it's loud, sorry. As you know, I do a lot of work sort of in the sensor analytics area. And the biggest gap I'm seeing, frankly, is that there aren't any platforms out there that are looking to aggregate data from a multitude of different sensors. Is that something that's on VergeSense's roadmap?
Yeah, I'd say it's absolutely an issue. I don't think there's ever going to be a one-size-fits-all hardware product that's going to scale across every aspect of a whole portfolio. There's another number of companies sort of working on that aggregation view. It's something we're looking into as well. But I agree that it's an unserved need in the industry. The other thing that I think is really important as well is to not just think about analyzing just the utilization data. I think the big opportunity for us, and when I say us, I mean the entire industry, is to really think about how you can tie space design to business outcomes, right? And I've had a number of conversations with people who have various measures of productivity, whether it's sort of like lines of code produced or velocity of product development, drug development timelines we heard about earlier from Genentech. And so I think to the extent that we can have a great utilization and occupancy understanding and space understanding, and then translate that into business outcomes with analytics is just an absolutely huge opportunity that we're excited to participate in, and many others are as well. So.
Yeah, I've got a quick question. Cliff Wagner, HP. Hey, that point that you made a minute ago about one collaboration area for every 2 workstations.
Yep.
Where's that data? Is that US specific, or do you have any feel about the other regions?
This was a global study. So this was across multiple regions between primarily US, probably 60% US, 20% Europe, 20% APAC. I believe in the report we do have some regional breakdowns as well, but I don't have that top of mind. But yeah, this is global. Yeah.
Any other questions? Throw your hand up and I can get the microphone to you. Going once. No, okay, great. Dan, Ryan, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.